Horror stories will sometimes go in a completely different direction than the usual formula of brave hero, evil monster, they fight, the baddie gets the upper hand, the goodie overcomes the odds and slays the beast. But sometimes the big kill is given to someone totally out of left field with no prior warning. This is often done to surprise the audience, who have become used to the standard tropes of horror cinema. It's a big risk to take this path, as it can sometimes disrupt the flow of the narrative or provide an unsatisfying ending, but sometimes it can be pulled off pretty well. So with that in mind, I'm Adam, this is What Culture Horror, and here are 10 horror movie villains killed by characters nobody expected. Number 10. Amber Freeman, Scream. After 11 long years on the shelf, the Scream franchise made its glorious return with a movie called Scream. Because that's not confusing at all. Scream 2022 let loose the latest incarnation of Ghostface to terrorize characters old and new, with some of that classic series intrigue surrounding their identity. Similar to the original movie, it's revealed that there are two killers at play, Richie and Amber, who are obsessed with the Stab movies, the in-universe parodies of the Scream films. Richie is killed by Sam Carpenter, a new character who is revealed to be the daughter of Billy Loomis, whilst Amber is shot by Gale Weathers, which causes her to fall onto a stove and catch fire. Yeah, that'll teach her to kill Dewey. However, in a proper bait and switch moment, Amber, who survived being burned, rises up to attack our heroes, only to be shot in the head from off camera. And the shooter, Tara Carpenter, played by Jenna Ortega. Basically, don't mess with Wednesday Addams, especially when she has a gun. Number 9. Albert Wesker, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. Based on the video game series of the same name, the Resident Evil movies are set in a world ravaged by a genetically engineered virus. To combat the various horrible monsters created by this disease, a group of good guys get together to blast them all to Kingdom Come, led by Milla Jovovich's Alice. The main villain of the series, as is the case in most of the games, is Albert Wesker, a member of the villainous Umbrella Corporation. Wesker, played by Sean Roberts, meets his maker in the final film in the original series, The Final Chapter. The reason for his death? A door. During the final moments of The Final Chapter, Wesker has his leg crushed by a security door after he gets fired from the company. He eventually bleeds out from the wound, which is pretty weak considering he dies in the middle of a volcano in the games. Now, technically his death is caused by the Red Queen AI program that is initially unable to kill any Umbrella employees. When Wesker gets the sack, the Red Queen pounces, killing the evil super soldier before Alice can get a chance. Number 8. Steve Hadley, The Cabin in the Woods. Drew Goddard's The Cabin in the Woods is all about horror tropes and how to break them, so it's no surprise that one character gets killed under very unexpected circumstances. After discovering that their nightmare scenario was caused by a shady corporation, survivors Marty and Dana end up transported to their lab, where they find all sorts of horrible creatures waiting inside. When being pursued by security forces, the teens release the monsters to create a diversion. All manner of nasty things are unleashed on the facility, resulting in more blood and gore than the annual Messy Butchers convention. Pretty much all of the lab workers meet a sticky end, including Steve Hadley, one of the main technicians. Hadley, played by Bradley Whitford, had been talking about wanting to see a merman in action all movie. Unfortunately, his wish comes true, but not in the way that he would have wanted. In the midst of all the chaos, Hadley is blown across the room by a grenade, leaving him completely vulnerable as a merman attacks him, biting his flesh until blood spurts from the creature's blowhole. Number 7. Jason Voorhees, Jason X. 2001's Jason X is the 10th installment in the Friday the 13th franchise, and it's something. Writer Todd Farmer reached the conclusion that the only direction the series had left to go in was to send its hulking villain into space. Somehow, everyone else agreed, and the story became about Jason Voorhees waking up in the year 2455 and gaining cyborg abilities. Yeah. The climax of the film comes when Jason is stalking a group of survivors aboard a spaceship. They try to distract him with a holographic display of Camp Crystal Lake, but this backfires, and the undead hockey-masked murderer is about to move in for the kill when the good guys are saved by Sergeant Elijah Brodsky. Brodsky, played by Peter Mensa, is the leader of a group of soldiers sent to deal with the thawed-out menace, and he sacrifices himself to send Jason plummeting towards the nearby planet of Earth 2, whereupon they are both burned to cinders during re-entry. Considering that a character called Rowan was cryogenically frozen alongside Jason, all signs pointed to her being the one to kill him. This time though, the Sarge was in charge. Now I want to hear from you. What's your one horror movie death that you really didn't agree with and felt really undeserved? Make sure you let us know down in the comments, and you know the usual stuff. Give us a like and a subscribe. Alright, now back to the list. Number 6. Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. From one iconic horror movie villain to another, A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master pits a returning Freddy Krueger against the 3 surviving teenagers from the previous film, with Lisa Wilcox's Alice Johnson taking on the role of the main protagonist. As is tradition in these pictures, the final sequence takes place in a dream, where the inexperienced Alice must take on the glove-wearing maniac alone. Through the power of love and friendship, or something, the shy girl overcomes the evil force when she remembers an old nursery rhyme called The Dream Master. The song forces Freddy to face his own reflection, and in doing so, the many people he has killed over the years. The absorbed souls that make up his body turn against their host, stretching and straining until the body is ripped to pieces. Considering how much damage Freddy has done, giving the kill to his victims was a really nice touch and very unexpected. You could argue that Alice technically gets this point, but that's not nearly as poetic. Number 5. Captain Henry Rhodes, Day of the Dead. For the third film in his Of the Dead series, George A. Romero set the story inside an underground bunker, where a group of sheltering scientists and soldiers are working to end the ongoing zombie apocalypse. Day of the Dead might lack the immediate threat of its predecessor, Dawn of the Dead, but it's a startling reminder of how dangerous human beings can be when stuck in a confined space. Anyone who's ever been on a long-haul flight will definitely be able to relate. As a result, the main villain of the film isn't a ghoul, it's Captain Henry Rhodes, the extremely aggressive military leader who calls for the destruction of all of the captive zombies being used for experiments. This includes Bub, who has been partially cured and even remembers some of his past life. Bub isn't exactly a major character, but he does get arguably the movie's biggest moment. He chases Rhodes down a hallway, which leads to a room full of undead flesh munchers. As he turns around, the captain is shot by Bub, causing him to fall backwards to a gruesome death. Now that's karma. Number 4. Mrs. Kandy The Mist. Similarly to Day of the Dead, The Mist is a film full of grossly exaggerated creatures where the most evil presence of all is an ordinary person. David Drayton and his son Billy end up trapped in a supermarket by the titular fog, which hides a number of gigantic, bloodthirsty monsters. There they meet Mrs. Kandy, a delightful woman who believes that the creatures are actually the wrath of God. Kandy's religious fanaticism spreads, and she soon amasses a group of followers who believe her theory. Things quickly escalate, eventually leading to the group sacrificing one of the non-believers in the hope of appeasing the Lord. David, who has formed his own group, announces that they are leaving, which leads to a tense standoff between the competing factions. Just when it looks like things are about to get ugly, Kandy is shot by Ollie Weeks, the store's unassuming manager. Ollie just so happens to be handy with a gun, so he takes out the zealot with just 2 shots. And if he hadn't, who knows what Kandy would have done next. Number 3. Max, The Lost Boys. Before he was Jack Bauer in 24, Kiefer Sutherland was a sexy vampire in The Lost Boys, a cult horror favourite from 1987. Sutherland's character David is part of a gang of vampires led by Max. Max has his sights set on Lucy West, whom he wants to convert and make the mother of his tribe. He seduces her, and in the film's final scene, it looks like Max is about to give her the old neck bite when something happens completely out of nowhere. A truck smashes through the wall of the house, ramming Max into the wall and impaling him on a large wooden post. Who should be behind the wheel but none other than Lucy's kindly old dad. Lucy's father awesomely reveals that he knew what was going on all along when he says, "One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach, all the damn vampires." Now that's one badass old man. Number 2. Fral Brookner, Phenomena. Whilst a shortened version was released in the US under the name Creepers, the original name of the full version of this 1985 film is Phenomena. Directed by Italian horror legend Dario Argento, Phenomena tells the story of a young American girl named Jennifer, played by Jennifer Connelly, who was sent to school in Switzerland. There, she discovers she has the ability to communicate with insects, which she uses to battle a serial killer who is targeting young women. It's a bit of a wacky idea, but just roll with it. The school is overseen by the sinister Fral Brookner. It is revealed that Brookner's son is the killer and that she has been protecting him, which leads to a final confrontation between the murderous mother and the young American. Thankfully, Jennifer is saved when Brookner is attacked by Inga, who slashes her throat with a razor blade. And who is Inga, you ask? Well, she's a chimpanzee whose owner was murdered by Brookner, of course. This mad ending is typical of Argento's work, and in the grand scheme of things, is towards the tamer side of his ideas. Number 1. Kevin Wendell Crumb, Glass. 19 years after the release of Unbreakable, M. Night Shyamalan finally completed his trilogy with Glass, which brought together 3 major characters from across this saga. Bruce Willis's David Dunn, Samuel L. Jackson's Mr. Glass, and James McAvoy's Kevin Wendell Crumb, who had been introduced in the middle movie Split, are kidnapped and placed in a psychiatric facility, where they are forced to face up to the true nature of their superhuman abilities. Naturally, this doesn't end well, and all 3 men escape. Who saw that coming? During a fight scene between David and one of Crumb's alter egos, the Beast, it looks as if Kevin is about to go on a rampage, only for him to be confronted by Casey, the girl he kidnapped in the previous film. Casey manages to talk him down, sending the Beast back into the recesses of his mind. All happy then. Oh wait, Kevin has just been shot by some random sniper and is now dead. Never mind. This was a sudden and somewhat disappointing end for such a great character, and one that didn't feel earned at all. No wonder Glass suffered with such bad reviews.